Welcome back into another video of the Arizona Sports Fan. Thank you so very much for tuning back in. I really do appreciate it. Now, in this video, I want to talk about who the Arizona Cardinals should let stay and who the Arizona Cardinals should pass on and allow them to test the free agent market out there. Now, I was currently taking a look at the list, and my goodness, there is a lot of players set out to be unrestricted free agents coming into the 2021 offseason. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into it deeper, who the Cardinals should end up keeping and who the Arizona Cardinals should just allow to go and just kind of leave the organization and test that open market, guys. That's what we're going to dive into today. Let's roll that intro. Welcome back in. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, I wanted to go ahead and play just a quick game of stay or pass for the unrestricted free agents for the Arizona Cardinals coming this 2021 offseason. Now, quick disclaimer, I understand that there's a lot more players on that list than I have currently right now. I went ahead and got about 15 to 16 players of my own list, players that are more high caliber, more going to be a bigger cap hit to our cap for the 2021 season. So keep that in mind. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to talk about every single player on that list, but I do have my own here that we're going to dive into. One last thing, if you're new, please consider subscribing to the AZ Sports Fan on YouTube. We do a lot of great things here, talk about everything Arizona Cardinals. We do free agency, we do the draft, and we also might even have a draft party, which I'm really excited about. We'll probably get some channel members on here so we can all be all in one spot talking about the draft. Really exciting news to happen from here on out. So definitely consider subscribing and putting on that bell on as well so you're aware of when we drop the next video or when we go live. Without further ado, let's go and just jump right into the topic of choice here. The first player I want to talk about is none other than Patrick Peterson. Now, I realized that I made a video about him earlier in the season saying that we probably should franchise tag him just because if we don't, then our cornerback position will be very depleted and very crazy looking this offseason. But looking at the last 4 to 5 game stretch of Patrick Peterson, his greatness, his lockdown cornerback as far as being a DB goes, that's not what he is anymore. He's a good to slash average cornerback now that wants to get paid big. He wants to get his last contract before he retires from the NFL. And I think he wants to go to a contending team. And in his eyes, I don't think he thinks the Arizona Cardinals are going to be a contending team next year. He's going to want to go to a Green Bay Packers. He's going to want to be going to a Kansas City Chiefs and probably reunite with his best friend, the Honey Badger. So I think Patrick Peterson's time is done in the Arizona Cardinals, and I would hate to keep a player that doesn't want to be here any longer. So I'm going to have to go ahead and give him a pass. Let him test out the free agent market in the 2021 season. Whoever decides to pick him up, then we'll go from there. But it's going to be a pass from me for Patrick Peterson. And next player, we have none other than Larry Fitzgerald. Now, this one might be just a little controversial and a lot of people might not like it, but I'm going to say it anyways. Larry Fitzgerald is coming into his a career within the Arizona Cardinals, still undecided, and I'm saying still undecided if he's going to retire or not. Now, last year, we got him at an $11 million contract. This year, absolutely no way in heck we're going to pay him that much anymore. His production wasn't there. I know that he's Larry Fitzgerald at the end of the day, but we really got to look at it as a business side of it all. We don't have a lot of cap room going into the 2021 season, so every dollar is very important to see about rebuilding this defense and rebuilding this wide receiving core to make it very, very good. So Larry Fitzgerald, if he does not accept a $4 to $6 million, now $6 million is even pushing it in my opinion here. If he does not accept a very minimal contract going into his career with the Cardinals, if he decides to come back, then I would say just allow him to walk. But I'm kind of on the fence. Keep him if it's at the right price. But if it's not the right price and if we don't come to an agreement, unfortunately, we have to allow him to walk. We need to think about the Arizona Cardinals' future as an organization, and we need to go back to the 2015 glory that was going to the NFC Conference Championship, and that's where I want to go back as well. Just to recap, Larry Fitzgerald, if it's at the right price, let him stay. If it's not at the right price, then unfortunately, we have to let him walk. Next player on my list is going to be none other than Kenyon Drake. Now, Kenyon Drake came into the team 2019, and he had an amazing 8-game stretch. Now, everybody was really excited that we have our running back. He was a great fit, a lot of people were saying, but this year he pretty much just kind of fell flat. Just an average type running back, in my opinion. He really only kind of blossomed when he was back there with Chase Edmonds, but both of them were going through their whole injury situation. So I think everybody has seen enough of Kenyon Drake and they want him out of this Cardinals organization. So I honestly have the same opinion on him as well. I do want him to go, so I'm going to have to give him a pass and allow him to test out that free agent market. So Kenyon Drake is going to have to be a pass on my end as well. And next player on my board is going to be none other than Devondre Campbell. Now, he's had some pretty good games, really good games where I'm like, wow, he's looking really good, he's looking explosive, but it just was very inconsistent in my eyes. And now that we have Isaiah Simmons, which is going to supposedly be taking the next leap and is going to be probably the starter of that weak inside linebacking spot for our Cardinal defense, I just don't think that there's any really much room for Devondre Campbell on our team. So that's kind of where I stand right now. Devondre Campbell is going to also have to be a pass. We're going to have to let him, test that market out and see if he gets signed up with a different team. But in my opinion, Devondre Campbell is going to be a pass as well. And next player on my list is going to be none other than J.R. Swayze. He plays guard for the Arizona Cardinals defensive line. I think it's going to have to be a pass as well for him. I don't see the fire in his eyes. I don't see the look in his eyes that wants greatness. And that's kind of the players that I want on this team from here on out. Nothing personally with him. I know he's been pretty solid, pretty good on the line. He's had some moments of like, bro, what are you doing? But you can't be perfect 100% of the time. But I do think J.R. Swayze is going to have to also be a pass, in my opinion. Let him go. Test out that market and see what happens from there on out. But we also do have Josh Jones. He might take a big leap going into the 2021 season. So we have him. Maybe he can be slid into guard. Maybe he'll play that right tackle spot that he's really comfortable with. We'll see what happens with Josh Jones. Really excited to see what his progression is, but J.R. Swayze is going to also have to be a pass for me. Next player on my list is going to be none other than Hassan Reddick, a former first-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, finally, the light bulb has came out, and we moved him out to the outside linebacking position, and he's thrived very, very well, doing a very good job on that position. So for Hassan Reddick, what I want for him is I want us to do a franchise tag on him. I want him to stay. Let's see if we can kind of do a prove-it deal. If he does in another amazing season, in the 2021 season on a franchise tag, then either us as an Arizona Cardinal organization can give him a long-term deal, or we can have another team do it. But I do want his productivity still on this team for the 2021 season. I think it's imperative that we franchise tag Hassan Reddick. Definitely a must for Hassan Reddick to stay. Next player on my list is going to be none other than Corey Peters. I'm just going to go ahead and say this flat out. I do want him to be a pass as well. Don't want him on the team anymore. I think the experiment of Corey Peters is gone. I like him as a player. Great person. He does very well for the community as well. But I'm going to have to give him a pass. And now that we have Licky Fotu and Rashawn Lawrence, we have some players that can really kind of, develop and get into that spot. That's what I want to see more in the 2021 season, more of the younger players getting the opportunity that they deserve to come into. So Corey Peters is going to have to also be a pass in my book. That's just kind of the way it is. It's business. Next player is going to be none other than Marcus Golden. Now, Marcus Golden is awesome. I love the Junkyard Dog. I really, really do. But if we do decide to franchise tag Hassan Reddick, we have Chandler Jones for one more year, and now Dennis Garnick is kind of coming up and becoming a very, very fan favorite, especially because of his dance he has going on. So I don't think there's any really much room for Marcus Golden. I really don't. So I'd really rather him go to a team that values him and that has him as a starter edge rusher, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to have to allow him to walk as well. So I'll have to give him a pass and allow him to test that market out there. But the only reason is because we're going to franchise tag Hassan Reddick, got Chandler Jones, and now Dennis Garnick's doing his thing. So there's really just no room for Marcus Golden. So going to have to be a pass. Now, next player on my list is going to be none other than Zayn Gonzalez. Now, I know I've been seeing this hashtag, fire Zayn forever now, and I agreed with it, and I was saying that I was done with him. But going into the 2021 season, I do want him to stay, but have a very, very short leash. Now, if we get somebody in free agents that surpasses Zayn Gonzalez, then absolutely scrap him, get rid of him. We don't need him. Yes, I agree. But if we don't have another kicker that we have our eye on in free agent or even in the draft, if they want to do that route, then I say let's keep Zayn Gonzalez for one more year. It's possibility that he might have got just too much in his head, more of a mental issue more than anything. So I say keep him, but have him on a very, very, very short leash. So for me, Zayn Gonzalez is going to have to be a stay, but very, very short leash. Next up, we're moving on to Andy Lee. Now, Andy Lee obviously was probably one of the best punters in the NFL at his time. This last year, he did pretty decent. I really do think he's kicking the ball very well. He had some slip-ups, definitely. Nobody can be 100% all the time. So Andy Lee, I do want him to stay as well for one more year. Kind of on the same boat with me with Zayn Gonzalez. If we get somebody that's, younger and a far superior kicker more than Andy Lee, then obviously we'll move on from Andy Lee. But if we can't find anybody, I have confidence that he can come back in the 2021 season. Just to recap, I do want him to stay as well. Next player I wanted to go ahead and talk about is none other than Kelvin Beach. Now, Kelvin Beach came in also last year during the offseason. I didn't think he was going to have such a big role as he did have, but the right tackle spot was kind of a swing position that everybody was like, oh, injury, what's going on, what's happening? But when Kelvin Beach got there, he really solidified that spot and was out to be a very, very, very good right tackle out there. So I would say keep him, but at the right price. Now, I get the right price situation is really kind of up to him and up to the organization, but I do want him to remain with the Cardinals at the right price. Absolutely. He was a great dynamite right tackle for our team. So I say keep Kelvin Beachum. Move on to the next player here, none other than Drake Kirkpatrick. Now, Drake Kirkpatrick had some moments. He had some moments of like, my goodness, yeah, awesome, interception, do your thing, man, keep balling. I love his passion, everything, but honestly, I feel like it was more of a liability more than anything, keeping him out there. All quarterbacks knew that to pass the ball on him. Actually, I don't think we really had any DB on our team that was very good and that any quarterback feared. And I think that was the biggest issue that we had going into the 2020 season, is that none of our DBs really showed out. They really didn't. Like, we didn't have any lockdown corners. But nevertheless, Drake Kirkpatrick was not any help at all. He was better than any of the other DBs that we had, that's for sure, that are sitting the bench. But I'm going to have to allow him to walk as well. I'm going to go ahead and give him a hard pass and allow him to see if he can revive his career with a different team. But I'm going to have to go ahead and give him a pass on my end. Now, next player I want to talk about is none other than Dan Arnold. Now, Dan Arnold is a good player. I like what I've seen from him. Obviously, he's not a blocking tight end. Obviously, he's not spectacular. He's not a Kittle. He's not a Kelsey. He's not an Ertz, anything like that. But I've seen some stuff in him that he can very well develop to maybe a player like that. Maybe once he kind of gets into the comfortability of, being comfortable with Kyler and what Kyler wants to do. Obviously, he needs to speak to him. Obviously, he needs to come get a chemistry going with Kyler Murray and all that different stuff. So that's exciting for the future. I like what Dan Arnold can do, especially being a vertical threat. But more than not, I think what I'm really excited about him is that we can get him very, very cheap. Very cheap. He did some splashes. Everybody was kind of excited, like, man, damn the man. Dan Arnold looks good, but he didn't do enough to want a big contract, if that makes sense. So if that makes sense, then I want the Cardinals to end up keeping Dan Arnold, absolutely, and we'll get him very cheaply, so he can definitely stay as a vertical threat for the Arizona Cardinals. So that's a stay for me. The last player I want to talk about is none other than Brett Hundley. Now, this one might be a little controversial too, but I would love him to go to a team that has more confidence in making him a backup quarterback. I don't understand why Chris Streveler was chosen over Brett Hundley, especially the game that happened where Chris Streveler came out and, my goodness, he looked absolutely horrendous. He didn't look like he took any snaps with any team. He just looked really, really bad. So I honestly do think I would love to keep Brett Hundley, but why keep the man if we have no confidence in him? Why keep the man if we don't have the faith that he could back up Kyler Murray? So for his own sake, I would say give him a pass. Let him go to a team that really has faith in him, in his ability to be a backup quarterback. Because here at the Arizona Cardinals, sometimes I scratch my head at the decisions that these, upper people, these football geniuses, they make. So I would say pass on him just because what's the point? What's the point of signing him? And because he's going to want a $6 to $7 million deal. What's the point of keeping him if we're not going to keep him as a backup? If that makes sense at all. So guys, that is my list on players that we should keep and players that we should pass on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you disagree with me on anything, definitely put it on the comments below, guys. That's all I got for this episode. Thank you so very much for watching, and I am out. Thank you.